Welcome all. I'm going to open the meeting of the Ames Historic Preservation Commission today, Monday, October the 10th. Call to order. Do I hear an approval for the agenda tonight?
I move approval of the agenda.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Moving on to item 3, approval of the minutes for last September. Move to approve.
I move to approve the minutes.
No changes. Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to item 4, our public forum. This time is set aside for public comments on topics that would be of concern to the Historic Preservation Commission, other than those that may be on the agenda. The chairperson may limit each speaker to 5 minutes. Please understand that the commission is not likely to take action on your comments at this meeting due to requirements of the open meetings law, but may do so at a future meeting. Do we have any comments today? No? Okay. Moving on to item 5, a climate action plan process and presentation by Deb Schildroth and others. So I'll turn it over to you all. We're looking forward to your presentation.
All right. Well, good evening, Commission, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you the city's climate action plan process. We're excited to be able to provide this information to you and answer any questions you may have after our presentation. I do have others with me this evening, and we make up our climate action team project team. And we are missing one person, Don Com. He's the Director of Electric Services. He was unable to be with us tonight. But I do want Mary and Susan to introduce themselves so you know who is sitting with me.
Hi, I'm Susan Guiazza, the Public Information Officer for the City of Ames.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Rankin. I'm in a shared position with the city and the university's Sustainability Director and the city's Sustainability Coordinator.
And I'm Deb Schildroth, Assistant City Manager and part of the project team for the Climate Action Plan. So we've got a short presentation for you, and then we'll take questions after. And we will be sharing in the presentation, so I'll send the slides. So why a climate action plan for the city of Ames? Well, Ames City Council has values that it reviews every couple of years. And for many years, council has had the value of environmental sustainability. And we'll talk a little bit about that later, about what we've been doing with our environmental initiatives over the last 10 to 12 years. But under their value of environmental sustainability, City Council specifically said, we want to develop and adopt a climate action plan. So what is a climate action plan? It's a framework that measures, plans, and reduces our greenhouse gas emissions and related climatic impacts. It's actually a customized roadmap for making informed decisions that would achieve the most cost-effective emissions reductions that are also in alignment with other city goals. So it's a more comprehensive type of plan. It involves setting a greenhouse gas reduction target, and then it centers the plan around community input that helps us rethink how we build and heat our homes and businesses and move around the community and power our lives. So beginning in about August of 2019, one of the first steps that needed to happen was we needed to know where we were at with our greenhouse gas emissions. We needed to assess that. And so we used a consultant out of the Twin Cities, Pale Blue Dot, and they worked with us for almost 9 months or so in determining where our greenhouse gas emissions are at. And so that was that first step. And then following that, City Council worked on an RFP, and SSG, Sustainability Solutions Group out of Canada, is the consultant that we've been working with since May of 2021 and determining what our target is and then working on developing a plan around that target. So they're using that information that was pulled together under the greenhouse gas emissions and then taking it the next step and helping us determine what should our plan look like, what should the steps look like, and how can we all get involved in giving input on that plan. So in December of 2021, City Council voted on the target that's in front of you, an 83% reduction of greenhouse gases by 2030 and a net zero emissions by 2050. So a pretty aspirational goal. Our timeline in working with SSG, so we started out on the far left there in that light blue dot. And right now we are actually kind of between the maroon dot and the darker purple dot. So in between the low carbon financials and the implementation and planning. So we've had from our consultant what a plan would look like in order to meet that target. And right now we're taking a look at, well, what all would be involved in meeting that target? What are the costs involved? How does that impact the community? How does that impact the services and staffing availability within the city of Ames? And what are some of the legal feasibility things that we need to consider when we are looking at the what we're calling the 6 big moves? I'm going to turn it over to Susan, and she's going to talk a little bit about our sustainable efforts up until now, and then we'll move into the 6 big moves.
So a little bit about the history of sustainability in Ames. I'm a long-term Ames resident, and I know that some of you have been here for a while, so I'm not going to go over things that you already know. But sustainability isn't new to this community. I think that we have been pretty progressive for years. I think what has changed is maybe the emphasis, maybe the terminology. Sometimes my mom will joke with me that she was cool before sustainability was cool. She just called it common sense. And she turned down the thermometer and she turned off lights. And that was kind of the sustainability plan in our family. Over the years, Ames has taken a more comprehensive look at sustainability, starting on the left of your screen with the Resource Recovery Plant. I know you're all familiar with this. It opened in 1975 as the first municipally owned and operated waste-to-energy facility in the nation, where garbage from throughout Story County is brought in and processed. Metals are taken out, and it is chopped up into small pieces, and it is sent over to the Ames power plant, where it is combusted with now natural gas, used to be coal, and it provides fuel for our electricity for our community. And that was pretty cutting edge. That was in 1976. So we are looking at that system. We're in the midst of a study. We're going to see if that's where we still need to be. And we're looking at maybe Resource Recovery 2.0. We're going to look at something of what are the other options out there. So that's one way that Ames was really, I think, cutting edge in the 70s. Some of the other programs, I hope that they're not new to you. I'm just reminding you about them. Let's go to the far right where we see those yellow bins. Those are glass recycling bins. That program has been around for over a decade. And that is, if you think about our waste process where we are using trash as a fuel, glass is not a good fuel. Glass doesn't burn. We don't want glass in the garbage. So around the community, primarily at grocery stores, and not just in Ames, but throughout Story County, there are more than a dozen sites of these yellow glass recycling bins. The concept there is you bring the glass back to where you probably got it from in the first place. Your salsa, your pickle jars. You can put 4 deposit cans in there and bottles in there. Some people put wine bottles in there if you don't want to take them back. We'll take all your glass, and that glass is sent down to Kansas City to a company called Ripple Glass, and they make fiberglass insulation out of it. So it is truly recycled. In the middle, I hope everybody takes a good look at all those pumpkins, because in a couple of weeks, we're going to be in a very similar place where what we're going to have are a lot of kind of smashed and icky looking jack-o'-lanterns who have lived better days and now need to be thrown in the garbage. Garbage is not a good place for wet, moist trash. So again, burning Our garbage to make fuel, wet, high moisture content garbage doesn't do a good job. So we would like you to put those in special bins. So we actually bring in extra bins at this time, right around between Halloween and Thanksgiving. We bring in extra bins to collect all that extra, basically food waste. But during the rest of the time, at Resource Recovery, there is a bin there specifically for food waste. And so if you're somebody that is not able to compost, but would like to maybe practice composting, you can bring your food waste down to a food composting bin at Resource Recovery and drop it regularly. You would be amazed at how much lighter and less smelly the rest of your garbage is just after a couple weeks of doing that. Some other programs that I'm sure you're aware of. SciRide has been our public transit system for a long time here in Ames, and they are making the move to electric buses. In March, they received a grant to purchase 3 all electric buses. They're retrofitting the bus station so they can be prepared for additional electric buses, and those are going to come. But Deb will talk a little bit about transportation as one of our big move areas, but we know that electric vehicles are going to play a big role in the future. Also, our Sun Smart Ames, the community solar farm, started a couple of years ago now, where on several acres of land next to Sam's Club on Airport Road, there is a community solar farm where all Ames Electric Services customers can purchase into that, somewhat like a solar co-op, and on your bill you get a credit for the amount of energy that's produced by that solar farm based on the number of panels that you've purchased. And then on the very right of that slide is one of our city fleet electric vehicles. We have several. Probably 10 years ago, we started experimenting with different types of vehicles, smaller compact vehicles, and eventually hybrid vehicles, and now all electric vehicles. And so this is a trend as we promote this kind of change to the community. We're trying to walk the talk and do it ourselves internally as well. And these are some of the initiatives you'll see.
Well, as Deb mentioned, we are within 6 big move areas and 29 strategies that our consultants have identified that really give definitive consideration in order to being able to meet the goals set by council. Those 6 areas are pictured here. You can tell it really gives a breadth and depth of consideration of how we build, how we maintain, how we heat, how we energize, and how we transport ourselves, as well as the consideration of those items at the end of their lifetime or usable lifetime, how we're disposing of them. So in April, these 29 strategies were provided to council. Since that time, city staff have been working very diligently, looking within a context of 8 different layers in being able to provide a detailed report back to city leadership and then finally to be presented to council on November 15th, related to exactly what would be necessary, what would be feasible, what would be of concern, and definitely what would be of opportunity related to the 29 strategies recommended. A few examples of that specificity that we are looking at in order to accomplish council goals. Building retrofits is a considerable area, and this looks at all municipal buildings retrofitted by 2030. As you go down, looking at residential buildings, goals for those being retrofitted, industrial, commercial, institutional buildings as well. And really looking not only at the retrofits being completed, but them actually accomplishing 30% energy savings below what we had established in our initial baseline framework consideration with our consultants, according to a business as usual model. Waste is another area. What happens to items at the end of their useful lifespan according to residents, according to businesses? The consideration of waste is not necessarily so much that we're producing it. It certainly is a consideration, but it's also how we are managing it. So how do we choose to dispose and manage of our waste? Diversion opportunities, landfilling opportunities, how the different types of food items that we're diverting. As you can tell here, not only do we have goals in place related to waste reduction, but also then the waste that is produced, ensuring that it's diverted from being landfilled, and specifically having that focus on food waste that Susan had mentioned. Renewable energy generation certainly is a considerable factor as we consider the fact of the incredible carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions that result from relying on fossil fuels. To that end, we are looking at some very extensive goal setting related to adding additional solar potential, solar energy opportunities within the community, as well as wind energy. And then that consideration, as Susan mentioned, about electric vehicle capacity and the ability to support that not only within infrastructure, but also within transferability within our community. And also consideration is transportation. Not only how we are transporting ourselves by vehicle and ensuring we are doing that with the least amount of carbon emissions, but also just challenging ourselves to choose those opportunities when a vehicle that requires any kind of fuel, whether it's renewable or non-renewable, to be used. So how can we actually look at shorter trips maybe being completed by walking, by biking, or some other completely no emission options, as well as some different considerations for programs that can assist the community in being able to choose various decisions. And so as we talk to different organizations around the community, first and foremost, we want to ensure that everyone knows where they can go to review information of the conversations that have taken place with council, the different informational pieces that our consultant has produced and provided for public consumption, as well as the presentations that have been provided to council. And to that end, City of Ames website related to sustainability is where we encourage you to bookmark and to refer. Certainly, we are also here to answer any questions and provide any follow-up information. One thing that I would note is that as we talk to different groups within those different 6 Big Moves area, we are providing basically a 4-step recommendation process. First of all, as a community, we have looked at our baseline, understanding where we are, where our starting point is, and where we need to move to improve. So we're encouraging businesses, households, even individuals to look at their own consideration of carbon emissions, understand where their framework is so they know where they are starting. From there then, as the city has done, encouraging everyone to set their own personal goals for their organization, for their business. Then doing research and looking at action items to accomplish those goals, and then prioritizing where to begin. We understand everything is not going to be able to happen at once, but prioritizing and being able to make that progress is such an important element for all of us and for our collective community success. And related to then ensuring that you have all the information, have all the questions, there are specific contacts. Deb is listed on the website as the primary city contact. Because of my shared role, I am listed as university contact, but collectively I would wholeheartedly recommend using that last email that ensures that it gets to all of the project team members and we get back to you in a timely manner. Also, as we talk to organizations, we encourage everyone to reflect. We all have a very vivid memories, individually, uniquely related to what climate change looks like. We also have wonderful memories and reflections, I think, related to what climate action can look like. And so with that, we thank you for the time to be able to have discussion, answer your questions, and we're excited about the journeys and the opportunities together.
Okay. So, does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask the action
I
group?
do.
Sure.
Well, first, I want to acknowledge the work that you guys have done for this. This is awesome that you're doing this for our city and appreciate it. Questions when it comes to the very first of the big six, there was a residential plan of lowering a certain, improving it indoor and retrofitting those particular. How can, as a historic commission, and we look at different neighborhoods and different things, what are the recommendations that you're seeing for those particular homes, and how can we be helpful from a commission?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. One component would be the fact that the City of Ames Electric Services Department offers energy audits. One piece that we are actually adding on to the audit is a consideration of carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emissions as well. So in going in, not only being able to give advice on increasing energy savings, reducing costs related to energy, but also that consideration of the layer of supporting the climate action plan related to reduced emissions. And similar to an energy audit, there are options that are laid out related to energy savings and energy efficiency that will, offer a timeline. Basically, here are some things that have, quick payoff, a little longer payoff, doing that similarly with that carbon emissions layer as well. So that would be one thing that I think would be beneficial, because that allows a good conversation as well as a template or sort of a roadmap to allow that, if nothing else, that consideration, and start putting together resources and putting those plans in place.
Okay, thank you.
You guys want to offer anything else?
Well, I would just add, so it's important to know that council hasn't taken action on any of the 6 big moves or the 29 action steps. Again, that's the analysis that staff is doing right now for council, and we'll be presenting that plan to them on November 15th. But when you look at the 6 big moves, it's important to realize that it's a package. So we can't look at it and say, okay, we're just going to do building retrofits and reduce the waste emissions and leave everything out. It's a package. So we have to do something within all of those moves in order to move the needle closer to our target. So it's really important to keep that in mind. In terms of the retrofits, the consultant, they've looked at the age of our homes here in the Ames community, and we're also studying that as well through our inspections division, and then looking at, where is it going to make the most sense to start something like this? Where are the older homes? What are the things that are available to be able to do this? So we're looking at windows, we're looking at heat pumps, we're looking at more insulation indoors, and there's a price tag to all of that. And can people afford to do that? Or is there an incentive type program that the city will need to come up with to help people move in that direction? So those are all the things that come under consideration as we're looking at the residential retrofits. Of course, then we've got businesses to work with. We have our own city-owned buildings, this building, for example, to consider as well. So, and then, are supplies available to do that? Are contractors available to do that? How long is it going to take to be able to do just that particular move?
Thank you.
I have a question. Will the climate action plan then be integrated into the city's comprehensive plan, or is that how this will end up, hopefully? Or
That's the idea.
okay.
There's a bookmarker left for us to slide in there.
Okay.
It's one of the things that I find fascinating about this. It's when our consultants talk about, a climate action plan. It's a plan that is for our community, but there are so many moving pieces within it that we don't have control over. Like we have more control over things that are going on in the land use plan or, our transportation plan. But when it comes to the climate action plan, we're relying on manufacturers of electric vehicles to produce those so we can purchase those, or having contractors available who will work on the net zero energy type designed homes and buildings. So a lot of it that's out of our control, but yet in our control in terms of keeping tabs on how fast technology is moving the needle and how we can continue to keep up with that and try to be at the same level of sustainability like we have been years ago when it comes to the resource recovery plant. That was a big thing back then. Well, what can we be doing, knowing what we know today and knowing what we know going into the future to keep on pace with what's becoming available so we can put this plan into place.
Well, I know that the commission oversees the preservation plan, which is part of the city's larger picture. And I know that one of the things that we constantly are looking at are, sustainability and affordability for people who need to update or make alterations to their historic homes. So it'll be something of interest to this commission to make sure that we're in sync and be able to provide resources to the people who are come to us and say, what can we do? What's available as potential resources to help us achieve these kinds of goals? So that's something we'd
I
like
think
to
you
support.
just hit on a really, really important point in some of the survey work that we've done. As much as you might think that people need significant financial assistance, and some people might, one of the more common responses is knowledge. People need information on how to make the changes, that there is a desire to make energy efficient changes. And I think specifically if you're in a historic home, and we all live in homes that come from different eras, it is different depending on when your own home was built, where you might need to make changes. And I think that we're looking in our own organization for those people who have that expertise. What are the best policy decisions to make, and what are those incentives? And sometimes it's not financial incentives that people need as much as they need the know-how and the skills and the experts to help them.
Well, we certainly look forward to partnering with you all in this kind of a action plan. It certainly makes a lot of sense, and it dovetails quite well with historic preservation, that's for sure. So thank you for coming.
Thank you
Yes,
very
thank
much.
you very much. Thank you.
Give them a moment here, then we'll move to the next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
So as we're getting all situated here, we'll move to item number 6, Chapter 31 discussion. We've had this ongoing saga of Chapter 31, and Mary Jo took an opportunity to give it a revisit to see where we are and how we could proceed. And I think that included in your packet was a note of a lot of her comments and what you found. So I'll let you turn over to you, Mary Jo.
Okay, if my my throat's really dry tonight, I don't know how I can get through this or not. But last meeting I volunteered to look at the guideline on that I knew something about on revising historic preservation ordinances, and I did look at it. And it was mostly for creating new ordinances, so it was not really useful for us. But we had a subcommittee meeting, or a committee meeting, I'm sorry. And Angie and Susan and I went over some of the things we discussed, and we kind of focused on what was the biggest issue with the ordinance, and we really felt like the certificate of appropriateness section has a more immediate need to focus on. The designation parts are important, but we just felt like the review process, that's the main function of this commission, is protecting historic resources once they're designated. And with our discussions on design guidelines, illustrated design guidelines, and public outreach, we felt like that's where the information's needed and they help us most needed. So we thought focusing on that section, or those sections, I think there's 2 sections, and then the definitions that relate to that section, that we should focus on that. And then set out a program where we can look at ways that we can communicate better with people who are affected by certificate of appropriateness review. And that would be meetings, just getting out more information, and then having the illustrated design guidelines just as a document that would help people if they're thinking about doing changes to their home, and that it would be readily available, and we could, through the neighborhood association newsletter, just make it more available so people know when they start thinking about making a change, so that they can see what's possible. So I outlined a work plan that I thought was feasible, but it depends on, since the city council would be involved eventually, there's got to be, you have to consider the public meeting notice times and all of that. So this is not a fixed timeline. Do you want me to read them off?
Yeah, just
So-
a quick kind of a summary thing here.
Okay, well, the first thing is just to continue to review those sections, section 31.2, which is the definition section, and 31.10 through 31.12. I think 31.12 is actually the Secretary of Interior standards, and they're pretty fixed. But so it's mostly section 31.10 and 11. Continue having that on our meeting agendas through March of 2023. That may take longer. Then present the proposed revisions to the city council that I projected May of 2023. That's going to take a lot of documentation. We're going to have to substantiate why we think the changes are important, and be pretty specific about where we need to make the changes. Then that would follow with, and again, that would depend on the public meetings and the notice requirements, that it would be possible to adopt the revisions in August of 2023. And associated with that project would be to explore with Iowa State University Architecture and History departments to see if there's a possibility of having a student project for working on design guidelines. And I've talked to Ted about the possibility of a special studio that would be interdisciplinary, would involve several. And there's really good examples of design guidelines in other communities. So there would be really good guidance for a student project. Another option would be to apply for a CLG grant for design guidelines. They do fund design guideline projects. There's been examples of that in past years. And that would be next year's application deadline is September. So then along the way would be conducting public meetings. And I outlined those for occurring in May of 2023 through June of 2024. So that's pretty long term for public meetings. And that would be to review design guidelines with the affected property owners and the processes of the CLG application and review procedures. We need to publicize the completion of the design guidelines, and that would depend on whether students do it or if we get a CLG grant to do it. And then conducting the workshops for the guidelines and the process. The previous public meetings, I think that was more for input from the public while we're preparing the guidelines. And so the last item would be to conduct the workshops in the neighborhoods, the existing historic district overlay, and then the 2 properties that are designated. So that would involve just property owners. I have a recommended proposal that I think we can approve, or if we want to talk about it and put that off, that's fine. But the committee is asking for the following action: to approve the above work plan and methodology and schedule to present to the city council, and to lay the groundwork for public outreach and preparation of illustrated design guidelines.
Any questions at this point before we make a motion? Or?
The difference between what the students would be doing and the committee here would be doing is we're writing the guidelines themselves. They're going to do the visuals of that. Is that what you're
Right.
Okay.
It would
Just want to make sure I
right.
understand.
It would be a document that
Yep.
would have illustrations of like
Photographs.
and drawings and suggestions, narrative suggestions on how to deal with
Put it together.
different things. Yeah.
So in review of the last meeting, knowing that we were looking at definitions and we were kind of going through this, and then there was some discrepancies with the staff on some of those definitions and how they impact the bigger picture of different things. Would we be defining the sections that we'd be meeting on and have response from the city and kind of work in correlation with that? Versus, I feel like that was kind of a block that we were having before. So I just wanted to see if we got.
Well, we
that
need to have
consideration.
staff input, because especially on certificate of appropriateness, because if they've had issues like making a property owner understand what they need to do, or I remember staff saying something about a person that wanted to do something and they just left because they didn't want to do it the way they suggested. So I think the illustrated design guidelines would be really helpful
Sure.
in that situation. So
would we meet here with staff, or would there be conversations outside and brought it back? I just want to make sure that we're coordinating that kind of effort.
right. Well,
Yeah.
I think we'll continue to have meetings, the committee. And what we've been doing the last 2 months, I think, is for the committee to meet, and then we'll have a meeting with staff
Okay.
and kind of go over. So I think that's working okay. And then bring it to the commission.
Great. Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay.
So it sounds, just to be clear, we'll be focusing on the definitions and the certificate of appropriateness going forward here. And then the thing about conducting public meetings and things like that, part of that would actually be carried out in our work program our annual work program with the public education, where continually making sure that we continually provide information like maybe about windows, or we'll talk about this a little further, other things that would kind of keep it in the mind's eye and also show that there are resources and information, but make it an ongoing, regular event, And so. So do I have a motion then about proceeding with staff? Do you have comments or?
Oh, I had a question about
Sure.
the design guidelines. Are you saying the students would write the design guidelines, or are you saying the students would do the illustrations?
No, it would be a document
Yeah.
that has, based on the Secretary of Interior standards, it would not be incorporated. It would be a separate document. It would be the guideline would be an educational tool mostly for people who are in a historic district or people who want to be in a historic district, and then they can kind of see what might be expected.
More
So,
examples.
and it would be, a tool for staff as well to, when somebody comes in with a project, then you can go to that section, say on Windows, and give them that information. So it would be, if it were a student project, I'm not sure how it would work with the city staff and but
You'd spoken to Ted as a collaborative with
Yeah.
various departments.
right, it's like I said, there are a lot of really good examples that a student project, if they could do it in a semester, that's something we'd have to make sure that we could get a usable document and what we wanted within a semester's time frame.
But would the students be revising the actual guidelines?
Not revising the
No,
national
just
one.
No.
doing the illustrations.
They would be
Yep.
using that
Right.
as their
Okay,
Yeah,
base.
the primary
okay.
reason is to get illustrations so
Okay.
people can see rather than just what it says in the ordinance.
Right.
It's better to have illustrations and photographs for people to really understand.
Okay, thanks.
So, motion to approve the work plan schedule as proposed.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Okay. Moved and seconded that we kind of see the schedule as laid out here, and we'll proceed starting with our next meeting in November to continue our discussion on definitions, I believe, right? What did we?
We kind of dropped it when we got to certificate of appropriateness. So I think we need to have a committee meeting, probably kind of to decide what we want to focus on, because this is pretty broad.
So there will be, yet to be determined, Chapter 31 discussion in November, and we will keep you all apprised of what the specifics will be and have that attached to the agenda for your review.
Yeah, I think we
So-
had I think we gave all the commission members something on the definitions last.
I think we had,
So I think we've got some work done on that, but I think we may need to discuss that again to get more information, but it's all going to be a piece. I mean, we need to go through the certificate of appropriateness because there may be something else in there that maybe needs to be defined as well. So I think we've done a lot on the definitions and we've got some ideas, but we also may want to go through the other sections just to kind of see if they work, which one works better or whatever. So.
Can I make a comment before we
Please.
vote? I will vote for it out of respect for the professional members of the commission who presumably bring years of knowledge and experience, not too many years, of course, to the discussion. However, I have yet to have it really explained to me, and Eloise, looking at the minutes and remembering Eloise's presentation, I don't want to put words in her mouth. I have yet to be convinced that the comments that you suggest in the discussions we've had so far make it particularly more user-friendly to a homeowner or a member of the public. I've not, I think, and I know the word wordsmithing was used. I have to say that I have a bit of bias personally, that's kind of how it strikes me too. So I will vote for it, as I say, out of respect, and because it's been a long-term goal of the commission to address 31, and I can see the shortcomings. I certainly see the need for the photographs. But personally, I think a little more explanation as to why you're saying this word needs to be changed to that word to make it make sense to me.
Makes a lot of sense. Very good. Appreciate your
It
comments.
needs to
Really
be,
do.
yes, it needs to make sense. I totally agree.
So shall we vote? We approved, and I think we're done, right?
No, we
No,
haven't
we have to
voted.
vote.
Voted.
We've
We
had a-
haven't
we've
voted. We
had
haven't
a
voted.
second,
Okay, we had
yeah.
the second. Now we vote. Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moved and approved. So we'll hammer out a schedule here and get the show on the road. And definitely, your comments are very helpful, Rosemary. So, okay, moving on to item 7, the Certified Local Government Grant Update. And we received the quarterly report in our packets. Eloise, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think everything's here. I'm happy to answer questions. I did want to especially thank everyone for coming last week, those that were able to come. And as was mentioned, it was video recorded, and it's going to be put on the website as soon as they finish editing and getting it all ready to go. But we're thinking it will be this week, later in the week. So I can let you know when it's posted. So if anybody wants to look at any part of it or all of it or share it with someone else, you can do that. So thank you. Thanks for coming and being involved.
Okay.
Is it time for me? Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I've said this personally to every one of you after the meeting. The meeting was so excellent, and I congratulate all 4 presenters. It was succinct, it was clear, it was a really good meeting. And the map afterwards, collecting the dots, just a brief look, seemed lots of green, which I think was positive. So I really, because I've worried all along, maybe neighborhood residents would see the concerns, and really an uplifting meeting. So congratulations. And you didn't present, but you've obviously been a driving force. So congratulations to
Very
everyone.
good meeting.
Thank you. So any further comment? Okay. We'll go to item number 8, community education topics. And this was something that I brought up at the last meeting and asked everybody to kind of touch base. And we had some ideas of how we can kind of go forward on our work. Part of our work program, our annual work program that we have to do as a certified local government, is to have a work plan for the year and have some education opportunities is one of our goals. So we talked about some of those, and I think some of us, Eloise, Edie and Rosemary had potentially thought about looking at a partnership with the Ames History Museum.
Yeah, we need to get together on that, because the thing that I had in my mind, I went on this haunted ISU tour several years ago when my son was little. And I just found out that University Museums is the one who put that on.
Oh,
So I mean, we need to talk about
Yes.
what your thoughts and my thoughts are, but it's interesting that I'll have a little bit of insight about how they went about picking their, sites and how they went through that. So, I mean,
Oh, excellent.
yeah, we can talk more about how to transfer that to downtown.
And that's excellent, because it looks like if it was that, it was obviously an incorporating fun into history.
Yes.
So, which is also my vision too.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
So do you want to get back to us maybe in November if you have a chance to sit down and chat and get a little more details about something like that?
Mhm.
Okay. Matt had forwarded me some information about somebody who might be able to come forward. Also information that was,
So Tobacco Credit Union in Dubuque, Iowa, renovated a very large building in the downtown district area, and they had referred me to their consultant that helped them go through all the tax things, but also the actual development of the building and the plans to do so. And I didn't know if that would be an educational sharing that could take place, but I didn't know what form that would take place. But I really like the idea of the tour downtown too. So just
oh yeah.
I don't think it's either or.
yeah.
No. It's always good to have several things in your
Yep.
basket here. So and Justin, you had possibly thought there might be additional things that ISU and
I
the
thought
city
that,
could.
but I no longer think that.
You no longer think that
yeah,
anymore, huh?
I had some ideas, and they dissipated.
Oh, it's
So-
okay. That's okay. Always keep your ears open, though. You never know where an opportunity may arise. I think getting the partnerships is really what we really enjoyed. And I know that Alex, and I can never say his last name, and he even told me at the meeting, on Thursday, with the Ames History Museum, they're always open to partnerships and doing joint things. And so he was very excited about the information that was presented and the fact that many residents came forward with additional pieces of history about the neighborhood that hopefully they may be able to tap into as well for that huge bank of Ames history that they're developing over there. So I'd like to continue pursuing, some ways that we can partner with the Ames History Museum on some events or something like that as well. So, well, for sure, I will. Do you want to pursue any more information?
I can research it. And
Okay.
Come back and give you a little
Yeah,
bit more
see what kind of format choices we might have, and then Rosemary, you and Edie bring back to us maybe next time, and we can maybe have a couple of things that we can kind of put forward to look forward to. That would be great. I know I had Eloise and Ray forwarded some information about windows, just as a workshop kind of information, and I have that information. I have not gotten that forward, but I will get that for November too, and maybe we can have that as a potential workshop that can be looked at. Something that I am going to do this Thursday is, now that we're new, workshops and webinars for people who are on commissions, and I'm going to listen to this webinar on hidden tools for decision-making, staff and commissioner support systems, basically from other people who are on commissions in different cities. It's absolutely free. It's about an hour in the afternoon, but I think they tape this stuff. You can do it at any time. They say it's $10 if you are not a member, but we are members as part of the city of Ames. And if you are interested, I'll pass this down, and you just sign up and say you're with the city of Ames as a member, and then they get you on the register and you watch the Zoom thing. But they have other things, and they also do they have camps that they do. Several local commissions in Iowa have done camps that they've presented at different times, and that might be something that we could look at as a list of those. That might be something that we could host, maybe not this year, obviously, but in a year or so. Let people come to our site. We'll have so much to show them, as well. So that would be a nice thing. But anyway, I would like to make most of this new membership that we have with the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. And I think they are definitely a resource, not only for us, but also providing more community information. So that's what we got. I think we don't do our next work plan until, December, January, we start talking about the work plan for the next fiscal year?
I think we maybe talked about bringing it back to you in November or December.
Okay.
So maybe depending how much is on the meeting next time, I mean, it might be good just to have it there to look at, and then the next meeting, more discussion for,
And then we'll
How
have
to
at least
make-
something
how
to
to make it
talk
for next
about when we
time.
start putting together a work plan for 2023. We say for education opportunities, here's, 2 or 3 items that we could, already done a little bit of research and maybe we can hit the road running here. So, okay. Sure. Gosh, we're almost here to the end. Item number 9, commission comments. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring forward that they've? Commission comments? No? Okay. About item number 10, staff comments. Anything we need to be aware of coming up? Yeah.
well, there's still the challenge for the website through tonight. Did
Oh.
anybody write down any broken links or errors that they found on the website? Anybody have time to do that?
Just curious if you'd had time to incorporate Rosemary's.
I did not do it yet.
Okay, because I thought I would wait till you had those done and then do
Oh.
like a second comb over with fresh
Well,
eyes.
Oh, it's,
I have the prize tonight.
Rosemary has to have it again.
oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
But Ray told me he'd be happy to help with this if no one wanted. So, no, I'm hoping this week to start in on the website updates to make it much more workable.
Well, so far,
Thank
so
you
good.
for looking at the website, even if you didn't have time to find the broken spots.
So they're well hidden, apparently, we're just not finding. So, okay, anything further?
I didn't have anything.
Okay, so nothing further. We'll close the meeting for tonight.